They say the sound of a bullet passing your ear is unique. A sharp crack that reminds you how close death just came. But it wasn't the bullets that shook my hands that day. It was the letter. 5 words. I want a divorce. Vanessa. On our 10-year anniversary, she filed it while I was pinned behind a Humvee, counting my last breaths, wondering if I'd ever see home again. The Taliban took aim at my body, but my wife aimed for what was left of my heart. But in her rush to erase me, she missed the one clause that erased her plan instead. That's the thing about betrayal. It gets sloppy when it's hungry. If you've ever had your loyalty repaid with betrayal, this isn't just my story. It might be yours too. Subscribe now. I'd like to know where you're watching from, because what happens next changed everything for me, and it might for you too. We met in Economics 101, classic story. Her laugh carried across the lecture hall, felt like coming home before I ever went to war. Vanessa was an art major, vibrant, creative, full of life. I was ROTC, disciplined, focused, already knowing where I was headed. You're the structure to my chaos, she'd say. When we got married, her vows made promises neither of us fully understood. I'll wait for you, no matter where you go, she said. Your duty is our duty. That first deployment, she cried into my uniform the night before I left. Come back to me whole, she whispered. For the first 2 deployments, she was present. Daily video calls when signals are allowed, care packages with her perfume on the letters, notes hidden in my gear that I'd find weeks later when I needed them most. I kept her last handwritten letter in my chest pocket, right over my heart. It stopped feeling like protection after a while, started feeling like a weight. When did stay safe replace I love you? When did call when you can become no rush? Some nights I'd stare at our wedding photo more than I'd look at the battlefield map. The last time she said, "I'm proud of you," was 3 years ago, right before I signed for one last deployment. What I didn't know was she had already signed something too, a lease on a new life without me. Refresh, nothing. 3 weeks of silence. Around me, guys were getting calls, letters, and packages. I made excuses for her. The internet's probably down in our neighborhood. She mentioned a work retreat. Maybe my messages aren't going through either. Ethan found me after patrol. Something in his eyes made my stomach drop. Man, I don't know if you want to see this. The man had his arm around her. She was laughing, and he was wearing my shirt, the one she said she loved to sleep in because it smelled like me. Now it was on him, in our favorite restaurant, on what would have been our anniversary. I didn't feel the shrapnel in my leg that night. All I felt was that photo burning through my phone screen. When Ethan asked if I was okay, I told him I was fine. Another lie to add to the collection she'd been building between us. Some say war changes you, but sometimes it's what happens at home that breaks you. Double tap if you've ever been replaced while fighting your own battles. And subscribe to see how I fought back on a battlefield I never trained for. The mail runner had this look when he handed me the envelope. Pity, like he knew what was inside. My hands were still bandaged from the firefight 2 days before. The paper cut from the envelope hurt more than the stitches. She filed on our anniversary, the day I proposed 10 years ago on bent knees, the day she said, "I'll love you through anything." Now she was serving me papers while I was serving my country. She wanted it all. The apartment we'd bought with my combat pay. The car I'd never even driven. Half of the pension I was still earning with blood and time. She knew I couldn't contest it, couldn't call a lawyer, couldn't even cry about it. Just keep fighting a war on two fronts now. My commander found me staring at nothing, asked if I was okay. I said yes. First lie I ever told him. Ethan covered for me when I needed a minute. Brothers in arms know when to step in without asking why. You want to know true loneliness? It's not being in combat. It's reading divorce papers with no one to call, 7,000 miles from home, with a mission still to complete. But this wasn't the end of my fight. It was just the beginning of hers. When I finally landed stateside, the terminal was full of reunions. Wives jumping into arms, children running to fathers, tears and flags and welcome home signs. I walked through it like a ghost, standing at our apartment door, key in hand. Part of me wanted to turn around, go back to the war. At least there, I knew who the enemy was. Our home still smelled like her perfume, but felt like a stranger's house. Her side of the closet, empty, but she'd left my dress uniform hanging there, like a museum exhibit of a life that used to exist. The dog bowl, gone. Murphy had been my first gift to her, even took my dog. Bank account, $13.47. Not enough for dinner, not after she'd cleared it out. Then, a text. Let's keep this civil. She didn't want peace. She wanted possession of everything I'd built while building nothing with her. That's when something inside me hardened. I stopped being the husband who'd been abandoned. I became the soldier who'd survived worse. And soldiers know how to read intelligence before planning the next move. Stay with me, because what I found next changed everything. Carla was the fifth lawyer I called. The first four saw a broke soldier with no fight left. She was different. First lawyer who looked at me, not through me. My father served 3 tours in Vietnam, she said. I know what they don't teach you about coming home. I've diffused bombs with steadier hands than when I handed her those papers. Carla didn't just flip through pages. She scanned like she was looking for something specific. Then, her pen stopped. She looked up, and for the first time in months, I saw hope. Did you consent to being served while deployed? She asked. Did she mention the SCRA? I didn't even know what that was. Carla smiled. Not a happy smile, a predator's smile. She found the missed clause. Actually, 2 of them. 1, SCRA violation. The Service Members Civil Relief Act. You can't legally serve divorce papers without consent during active duty. 2, the 10/10 rule. Military pensions can only be divided if the marriage lasted at least 10 years, overlapping with 10 years of service. She filed 1 month too early, Carla said, and that single month saved everything. When someone tries to bury you, they sometimes forget you're a seed, and in this case, she planted the seeds of her own defeat. Hit subscribe now if you want to see justice served colder than the heart that betrayed me. Family court looks nothing like the movies. No dramatic speeches, no pounding gavels, just fluorescent lights and the smell of industrial cleaner. Vanessa didn't look at me when she walked in. I couldn't look away. New haircut, designer clothes. The man from the photo sat behind her, hand on her shoulder, like he was steadying her, like she was the victim. New watch, designer bag, bought with our money. Her lawyer spoke of irreconcilable differences and abandonment, as if serving my country was abandoning her. as if my nightmares and scars were just inconveniences to her happiness. Then Judge Maddox, a veteran himself, I'd later learn, asked one question that changed everything. Was the respondent actively deployed when served? The silence felt like the moment before an IED goes off. You know something's coming. You just can't stop it. Her lawyer stammered something about best efforts and inability to reach. Judge Maddox cut him off. You served divorce papers during active combat without consent, which voids the filing under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. And as for military pension, your client filed at 9 years, 11 months of marriage. The 10/10 rule requires a full decade. She missed it by 30 days. Vanessa's face crumbled. Her lawyer scrambled. In her greed to be free, she chained herself to a deadline she didn't understand. And for once, time was on my side. They say patience is a virtue, but timing is everything. Tap that subscribe button and like the video if you believe karma keeps receipts. And stick around because what happened next wasn't just justice, it was poetic. The ruling came down like artillery fire. Filing voided. She'd have to start over, with me now prepared. Full pension protected, every cent I bled for. Apartment remained mine, keys returned by end of week. No spousal support, not a penny for betrayal. Legal fees, all on her. Her boyfriend slipped out before the gavel fell. Rats know when ships are sinking. Carla's quiet. Congratulations felt more like you survived. She understood what this really was, not a victory, a continuation. Vanessa tried to catch my eye as she left. Maybe for forgiveness, maybe for one last manipulation. I looked through her, the way you look through a ghost of someone who used to matter. She left thinking she'd won by getting away from me. She just didn't read the fine print of what she was leaving behind. And me? I kept the couch, the pension, and the dignity she thought I'd left overseas. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't getting even, it's getting free. Let's know in the comment section if you've ever watched someone lose everything they tried to take from you. Subscribe now for stories of justice that hit harder than fiction. The silence was deafening at first. An empty apartment holds every thought you try to escape. I painted the walls a color I chose. Hung pictures of places I'd been, not wedding photos. Bought a grill for the balcony she always said was too small. The shelter was loud, chaotic. Dogs barking for attention, for a second chance. Then this scraggly mutt in the corner. Didn't bark, just looked at me like he understood, like he knew what it meant to be left behind. I adopted a rescue dog, named him Murphy, not after her dog, but for Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. But the flip side is also true. Sometimes things go right in ways you never expected. I became a divorce counselor for veterans, not because I'm an expert on marriage, but because I'm an expert on surviving when your home becomes another war zone. I put the divorce letter in a drawer, folder, named Lesson, not because I needed the reminder, but because someday it might help someone else survive their own ambush. The strangest part of betrayal isn't the pain. It's realizing you're stronger alone than you ever were, trying to hold something together that was already broken. They say war makes or breaks a man. She tried both. But here I am, not just surviving, building. And that's the thing about being broken in combat. You learn there's always a way to come home. even if home looks nothing like what you left behind. Her betrayal taught me that some battles aren't worth fighting, but some are worth winning. Know the difference, and you'll never lose what matters. Ever been betrayed when you were your most vulnerable? There's strength on the other side. Subscribe for real stories of betrayal, redemption, and the justice system actually working for once. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better.